Welcome back to the Brotagonists podcast. This is your bro host, Carter.
And this is your bro host, Mason. Welcome back. We have an episode I've been very much looking forward to recording today. We are going to be going over The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. I even have the leather-bound edition because I love this book so much.
And I've got just the normal hardcover edition. So there it is right there. There's Vin on top of a tower.
Carter brought up a really good point that I always have the crappiest copy of a book with the nicest possible copy that you can buy.
And I've got just the middle of the road, middle class book right here.
And this is a book I'm really excited to talk about. It might, after today, be our highest ranked book on the Brotagonists podcast. We'll see. It's the highest I have ranked so far. And what a name for a book, The Hero of Ages. Just love that. So we'll be reviewing that in our Protagonist book breakdown. After that, we'll be doing some blind rankings. And after our blind rankings, we'll have a Weapon of Wisdom by our very own Carter. And then we'll send you guys off for another amazing day of listening to the Protagonists. But before we get to the book breakdown, let's get to our bookmark section. Carter, what are you reading right now?
Well, Mason, as you know, I was visiting your state this last week. And so I guess it's not your state, but it's where you're living right now. So we had a nice Protagonist reunion. And if you listened to it or watched our last episode, you saw that we were together in person. It was a wedding week for me, for my brother-in-law. And for you, I think it was a crazy week, but we still got together and filmed that fun episode. But I didn't get to read a bunch, and that's the point. I didn't read a lot. It was nice to have a little bit of a break, I guess you could say. I don't really read a lot on vacation just because it's part of my routine at home. It's like so in my routine that it's difficult to find time on vacation. But I got a little bit in, and I'm still reading Malice by John Gwynne.
Wow, look at that copy of Malice. That is beautiful.
I'm proud of it. I mean, I didn't do anything for it, but I'm proud of the book on my shelf here so far. But so far, good book.
It's a lot nicer than my copy that's like right there.
Those copies are cool though. I like those a lot. Just kind of the white theme going on. But yeah, this is a good copy. I'm only on the first chapter. And last week I was on the prologue, so I'm making progress. I'm excited to get into it. But Mason, what are you reading?
For my fun reading, I'm going over the tandem read still, Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn. I have made a good amount of progress into it for the tandem read. I'm a little over halfway in Tower of Dawn and a little less than halfway in Empire Storms. Also, like you, have had a lot going on, and I love visiting my friends, and that's my priority, but that also makes it so I can't read as much. So seeing the boys and everything, and having family in town and a new nephew, it's been a lot of visiting with people, so a lot less reading. And also I'm not, these books are good. They're solid, they're enjoyable, it's a good high fantasy. But I'm not in love with any of the characters. I'm not overly compelled to be reading whenever I can get any second to read. I've just been a lot more into watching some shows and listening to music when I have my free time. These are good, but it's just, I don't think it's ever going to crack my top 5 favorite series or anything. But they're solid. I'm enjoying them for the most part, but it'll get done when it gets done. I'm hoping for just another week so I could kind of move on to reading something I'm a little bit more interested in.
Yeah. Speaking of A Throne of Glass, did you see Sarah J. Maas's release of her 2 new covers of her books coming up this winter?
Yeah, those are for the Court of Thorns and Roses though, right?
They are, but from what everyone is speculating, it's a crossover from Throne of Glass to ACOTAR.
I have heard that her book, because she has multiple series as well, similar to Brandon Sanderson, is that there is a cosmeric element to, I don't know what she calls like her greater universe, that there will be a crossover of the Court of Thorns and Roses, Crescent City, and Throne of Glass, which is awesome. For those that like are really into Sarah J. Maas's work, that's an incredible thing for her to do and how she can implement that into her works. I've loved having that in the Cosmere. But me personally, I'm not in a huge rush to read ACOTAR. Like, there's been good parts of Throne of Glass, but I'm just kind of like it's the no character connection, I think, is the big problem for me.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's a cool thing that she's doing, and maybe they'll be great, So it does look like I will have to read Throne of Glass eventually.
Yeah, and to be honest, most of the books are pretty quick reads. they are good. It is worth the read. And I don't want our listeners to think that I don't think it's a good series or I don't like it. There's definitely a lot to like. And I definitely get why there is a huge cult following with her work and these books. It's just not landing quite with me. And I think, different people relate to different characters better in other works. And if this works for a lot of people, that's so great. They're reading, they're enjoying it. And I do think I will get to Akatar eventually and to maybe Crescent City, but I'm just not feeling like the rush to do so. But having that universe is huge. And I think that that's really good for her readers, and that having that kind of entertainment through reading is really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's, just a little bit, small bit more on that. I think it's unique and more rare that an author is making, such a huge world come together and having all these multiple books. I mean, after these 2 books coming out, it's going to be like 20-ish books in the same universe-ish. And that's big. Like that's entering a field of your own, like where only there's a few more people, where like there's Brandon Sanderson, maybe not even Robert Jordan got to 20. And I don't know if Stephen King has like any crossovers. I need to read more King.
I think a lot of his are standalones.
Yeah. So it's pretty rare for something like this to exist.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just in my head, I'm just thinking of all the amazing authors we talk about on here. Very few have several hit series like the way, Brandon Sanderson has Stormlight Archive, Mistborn Era 1 and 2, and several standalones that have been like top sellers, super popular. But she has 3 series that are incredibly popular, incredibly well liked. The Throne of Glass, Akatar, and Crescent City. And that's really impressive that, she's really at the top of the fantasy game right now.
Yeah, she's doing something right. And if you can make the entirety of book Instagram and internet like explode over like just a release of a cover, then you're doing something right. So anyway, Mason?
I was just going to say one thing, like even the amazing authors like Pierce Brown only has Red Rising, Christopher Rucchio only has Sun Eater. Let's leave Tolkien out of this because he has a lot of things that aren't just Lord of the Rings. But like Robert Jordan, just Wheel of Time, and these are amazing authors. So I think if you can do this multiple times, you're an elite author. Anyways, we can get to the book we're supposed to talk about now.
100%. So this is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. If you haven't heard his name enough on the podcast or around the Book Talk, Bookstagram community, he's one of our favorites, if not the favorite author of ours. And he just does fantasy so well, world building. We've talked about book 1 and book 2. They've each had their own episodes on this podcast. And we do encourage you, if you're starting this episode and haven't seen the first episode or the second episode, that you should go back and listen to those before this one. But if you are still needing to read the first and second book in this trilogy, I would maybe tune into this one afterwards, because there's going to be some spoilers for the first and second books, because we need them to be able to talk about the third book, which is The Hero of Ages. And should I just give you a synopsis right now, Mason?
Yeah, give us a synopsis of Hero of Ages. Let's just get right into it.
And as I said, this description contains spoilers for previous books in the series. So, who is the Hero of Ages? To end the final empire and restore freedom, Vin killed the Lord Ruler. But as a result, the deepness, the lethal form of the ubiquitous mists is back, along with increasingly heavy ash falls and ever more powerful earthquakes. Humanity appears to be doomed. Having escaped death at the climax of the Well of Ascension only by becoming a Mistborn himself, Emperor Elend Venture hopes to find clues left behind by the Lord Ruler that will allow him to save the world. Vin is consumed with guilt and having been tricked into releasing the mystic force known as Ruin from the well. Ruin wants to end the world, and its near omniscience and ability to warp reality makes stopping it seem impossible. Vin can't even discuss it with Elend, lest Ruin learn their plans.
I get chills thinking about it. There's so much just coming into my mind as we're talking about this, and we might talk a little too long just about things in the book. But first thing that comes to my mind is an evil god named Ruin. Like, you just know that you're in trouble right away. I loved having Ruin be the bad guy in this book.
Yeah, I love that. And I like throughout the whole trilogy, I've liked opposition between ruin and preservation. How those are like, if you think about it, like true opposites. And at the same time, if they come together, how they can, be a more whole power. And it's cool how that is one of the constant themes of the book is the literal names of the shards is preservation and ruin. And so pretty cool. The names, ruin, that's a scary name for a villain, for sure. One of the best villains, I think, that we've read. Definitely a flawed personality. Once you get to know him a little bit and his backstory, and you get a lot of his backstory in this book.
Yeah, and you get it even more actually in the Stormlight Archive. Just a slight little tidbit here in Stormlight Archive from Hoyt or whatever you don't want to call him, in his letters to the other gods that you see like at the head of every chapter in the Way of Kings, he mentions that how dangerous Odium is because Odium was a bad guy before he took up that shard, and he referenced Ati, who picked up the shard of ruin, how he was a really good guy and how the shard corrupted him to just want to destroy everything and everyone. And so we definitely see that. Pretty insane and has the power of a god to bring ruin to an entire world.
Yeah, that's cool. I cannot wait to be able to read that story of how Adonalsium was shattered and how the 16 took up the shards. I think that'll be really, really fun, but I think we still have a long time to wait for it.
Getting into this book specifically and kind of just like Ruin's craftiness is how he can change words on a paper. He can control people. He can hear anything spoken. So really the only safe way to communicate is carving in metal. And it's just so hard for anything to be safe and how dangerous everything is at this time because the bad guy is just so lethal. And that made it just higher stakes and extra fun.
Yeah, and the ways that the plan and tactics that preservation used to kind of subvert the powers and plans of ruin and find the loopholes around his power is the coolest part of this book to me.
Yeah. Preserve, especially if you read Mistborn Secret History along with this, and you get that whole extra tidbit with some characters not directly present in the book and a little bit more into preservation's perspective. It's just so cool to see. And like the book has so much depth to it that you definitely miss on the first go around. Yeah, I just love it. And another thing I love about this book is I've read it. I know exactly who the Hero of Ages is, but whenever I think of like the title Hero of Ages and who it is, my mind goes to the person that they want you to think is the Hero of Ages, but isn't. And I think that's actually such good writing that even after I've read it, I still associate this person as the Hero of Ages, even though they're not the Hero of Ages.
Yeah, I actually think of all three of them.
Yeah, so there's a few people that they want you to assume are the Hero of Ages, and one specifically to be like the major, this is the Hero of Ages. In a lot of ways, they really are, but they aren't like the prophesied one to balance the world basically and to restore it to how it originally was supposed to be.
As far as characters in this book, who was your favorite one to read their perspective of?
I think my favorite character to read in this book was Alan Venture. I really love the change that comes to him after Well of Ascension, how he becomes the king that he needs to be, especially in a time of war. And I love the trust that like him and Vin have for each other, even though she can't tell him everything. He trusts her to do the right thing and to be her crazy, super powerful Mistborn self. And she has all the confidence in the world in him to lead the armies, to get everything together and save as many people as he possibly can. And I think his perspective was just really good and really fresh. And I just enjoyed reading him. Who did you like reading?
Elend is just such a good guy. And if you can see yourself in him, then that's probably means you're a good guy too. But he's a good guy, and I liked his perspective a lot, but I really liked Spook's perspective.
I even forgot about the whole Spook story that takes place here.
Because Spook, he goes through such a, I guess you could say, evolution of character. And not only that, he gains some powers. He gains some Mistborn powers, I guess you could say, but not all the. How would you say? He gains some alchemic powers. Is that what is it?
Allomantic powers.
Allomantic. I was like alchemic. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, he gained some allomantic powers. In my head, I was like feruchemy, hemalurgy, and then I was like allomantic powers. And how that happens and how he's kind of almost an unreliable narrator for a minute. That's kind of a totally unique perspective that we get. And you don't get that in the previous book, really, or books.
Yeah. And you definitely get a character that's very insecure and wanting to prove themselves. And, in a crew of such elite allomancers and feruchemists, and where, Vin is crazy powerful, Elend is super rich and more powerful than he is, and gets the girl that he wants, and everyone is popular. Some of his friends and uncle have died, and he's been pretty much useless because all he can do is just have like increased senses. And so he's like, oh, I can't fight. And so he's really wanting to do something valuable for his group and for his friends to prove that he's not useless.
Yeah. And in this book, he's probably the best tin user that there's been after he kind of reaches his potential.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that he's flaring tin all the time. So just for him to function like a normal human, he needs to put like things over his eyes and on his feet.
Yeah, he's totally like tweaked out on. He's like totally altered his chemistry. And that's cool to see. Wasn't Ellen's dad a tin user?
Yeah, he was.
Off topic.
He was a tin eyes. He was a tin eyes.
He was a tin eyes. That's right. I forgot that's what they call him, tin eyes. And didn't Brandon at one point, like in his rough drafts, he wanted iron to be or iron or steel to be the metal for higher senses, but like the term iron eyes or steel eyes was like too on the nose of other things.
Well, and that's eventually what they end up calling Marsh as Iron Eyes.
Yeah,
and so
exactly. So anyway, off topic, but isn't that what half this podcast is?
Yeah, but you actually bring up a good point with this book is with the Iron Eyes is the Inquisitors are such good bad guys like as henchmen for a super powerful god, and Marsh leading them and getting the Marsh chapters was so good as someone trying so hard to break free of this mind control but can't, and that he's going to have a part to play. You don't know what it is, but when he plays his hand, I love this. One of my favorite parts of the whole series. And I think Marsh is an underrated character, but I loved having his chapters in there.
Yeah, they were incredible. And he is just so powerful. And Ruin, you're fighting against a god, and then his henchman is like just as powerful or more powerful than a fully fledged Mistborn, basically. So not only is the ultimate antagonist like a god, but his henchman is even more powerful than your best hero. So that's cool. But he doesn't want to be. He wants to be a good guy, but he's stuck in the mind control of Ruin. I think finding out like exactly how Ruin controls you is one of the cooler parts of this book as well.
No, it really is. That was like so mind-blowing to me, and how that affected Vin and hearing her brother's voice, and like so much comes together that I'm just really, with this book, I was so blown away.
It makes you think that Brandon must have had just like the most elite outline, and like it was just so well done before he even started the first book.
Yeah, even there's little tiny details from Mistborn that come back at the most crucial moments, and you're like, really? This tiny little detail? Like, there's no way you were planning this 2 books ago, but he was.
Yeah, and that's what sets apart a lot of trilogies, I think, is when that planning is so well done at the beginning. And not only is this a book or a review of the 3rd book, but this is also just, we're at the culmination of the entire trilogy. And it bears mentioning that it's all just so well tied together.
Yeah, it truly is. I feel like the first 2 books, they're definitely above average, but I would say they're not like S tier by any means. They're just very good fantasy books. But then this one comes in, and you can't read this book and have it not affect your opinion of the rest of the trilogy, where you're just like, okay, yeah, those individual books, they might be like B+ to A tier, but when this is like S+ tier and it affects the other books, like how are they not
S++? That's a new tier. Yeah, It is, and it's this book, and it's all of the interwoven themes and details that really make this book probably one of the highest we'll ever rate. And we've always said in previous episodes, and it needs to be said now, that this is maybe arguably like the best third book to a trilogy we've ever read.
Yeah, I definitely, if it's not this one, it's Return of the King. And I think they're each good for their own reasons. I think, the little bit more modern, a little bit faster paced, entertaining writing kind of makes me lean this way. But, that'd be a fun comparison for us to do one day in depth.
That's a good point. And it's you know what, they're different trilogies. One's a journey, basically trilogy, like you start here, you end here, and this is all that happened in between. And then this one and then Mistborn is so politically driven and so much more of a magic system going on. But I think it's a good time, Mason, that I ask you for your elevator pitch, 1 minute elevator pitch on Mistborn, Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson.
Mistborn, The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson is the epitome of a book you read from an S-tier author at the very top of their game. This is one of his top 3 books, in my opinion, and it is high-paced, it's entertaining, it's deep, it's emotional, and if you don't like it, you're wrong. R-O-N-G, wrong. This book is fabulous. I recommend it to anyone. It is just so impactful and emotional that if you read this trilogy, you will never feel the same about another trilogy ever again. You will compare everything to this and feel like every other thing comes up short. And everyone should read this book.
Boom. Thanks, Mason. What a great 1 minute elevator pitch.
I felt that I needed to really keep it short. I've had some longer ones lately.
I should have a little hourglass that I tip over. No, that was good. So, do you want to get into ranking this book, or should we talk a little bit more about it? I feel like there's so much I'm missing.
There's a lot for us to talk about. I just want to bring up a couple more things. The Khandra in Tensoon.
Yeah.
First of all, maybe it's because I'm not very good at picking up some of these subtleties. I do now because I've read the books. I was like, oh, how did I not catch this? This was obvious. I did not catch the whole Tensoon impersonating another Khandra in the previous book. And then everything that he does for Vin in this book, and how just like the role of the Khandra in their fight against, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but their fight against Ruin, I was like mind blown. That was crazy.
Tensoon's my favorite character, and I always felt that way in this book specifically. His chapters are so fun and so different, and it's like all the underlying stuff and like everything you find out in his chapters is so cool. And like, so it's just such a unique, there's such unique fantasy things. And so he's fun. And although you kind of hate him at the end of towards the end of the second book. So after his little bit of betrayal.
Here's the thing though, I understood it. There's not really a whole lot he could have done about it. And he did everything he possibly could within the parameters he was given to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not his fault. It's just that's it. What he did kind of created a difficult situation for some other protagonists, but totally redeems himself in this book here.
So we see in Mistborn, there is a moment when Vin is able to take in the mists into herself and become more powerful. And when we get another Vin moment in this book and discover what the mists truly are and how they affect Vin and what their connection is. Oh my gosh, that is such a good sequence. That was just such majesty of everything she does. And the scene with Marsh right before she's able to make that connection and how that all comes about is just so beautifully written, so emotional, but then you get just some amazing, intense, perfect action scenes. I loved it.
You know what that makes me think? And this is the first time I've ever thought it. It makes me think how genius, I'm not trying to glaze Brandon Sanderson right now, but it's just like how genius is the title Mistborn. Like it tells us the answer the whole time of what the mist means. And the whole trilogy, I was confused on like, is the mist good? Is it bad? Like what's up with the mist? And all I had to do was just take the title literally, I guess. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it just gets more into the ruin preservation things and the history of the world. And to step away from Vin for just a second, since we're talking about the mists and the history with the mists, and when the Lord Ruler took over, how originally Rashik wasn't like a great guy, but he was trying to help the world. And he was trying to save the planet in a very clumsy way because he wasn't smart enough, basically. And so the hero of ages needed to be someone that had all the information to fix the planet. And just seeing like how he was trying to get rid of the mists, but didn't know what they were. It was just, it's just so crazy, like how it was perfectly written.
Yeah, it's like that satisfaction when you put in the last puzzle piece on a 1,000-piece puzzle or more. And that's what it feels like to finish reading this book. And it also finishes in a way that's like not predictable, but also feels right, and feels sad, but also feels rewarding and
satisfying.
Exactly. And it's a treat. And if you haven't read it yet, then you're in for a real treat. And hopefully we haven't spoiled too much, but you did have a warning here. And if you do feel spoiled, then just wait until you've forgotten everything that we've said, which I'm sure won't be long.
So let's go back to Vin here, because this is the first book where we get a mentally stable, comfortable, happy Vin. And I just loved how it felt like so natural for her to go from like the urchin that she was to kind of like the insecure teenager, young adult, and lots of anxiety about a lot of things, rightfully so, to the confident adult hero that we all love and know. And I really loved the growth that we see from her in this book and how she blossomed.
Yes. And also about Vin, I like the romance element of this book. I like to, even though when I think of this book, I first think of battles and blood and fighting and overcoming evil. I also like to think about the romance element between Vin and Elend, because at this point they're married, right? And it's like the culmination of such a beautiful relationship. And I like when they go to the ball and then they just like are, brazenly dancing in front of everybody, and they're just so in love, and then there's sweet moments at the end of the book, and it's nice. It makes me warm and fuzzy inside.
Okay, I gotta bring this up. It's not really spoilers, but it is a specific part in the book. When they go to the ball and they're dancing together, they're finally dancing together, and Ellen breaks out a book to read while they're dancing. I thought was so funny.
Yeah.
And
he does it as a joke, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Because he's always reading during the balls in the first book. And I thought that was hilarious. And my fiance is Latina. She loves dancing. She loves it. We have a rule for every chapter of Brandon Sanderson she reads, she gets 10 minutes of me to go out with her and dance. And I've sent her the picture of them dancing together, and Alan is holding a book, and like, this can be us at the club together.
That's so awesome. You're going to be in for a lot of dancing minutes.
Yeah, she's like 250 pages into The Way of Kings right now. Got her a Spanish copy. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of dancing, but I think that'd be really funny if I broke out a book while I was dancing with her.
That'd be pretty good. Spook becomes a character that I wasn't in love with, I guess, in the first two books, but just part of the team. But in this book, he really becomes a fun, cool character to me. And the rest of the team all plays a part. The rest of the original team plays a part. And I'm trying to think here.
Well, I think what really gets me into this book, like we were talking earlier, I can't get into Throne of Glass because there's not really characters that I love or connect with. I pretty much like every single character in this book. Of course you hate the bad guys, but I was like, yeah, I love Vin. She's a great protagonist. I like following her. Maybe a little bit in the second book, it's too teenage girly for me, but it was still like an understandable perspective and good growth to see. I loved Alan's perspective. I loved I thought Ham was a good character. I thought Breeze was a good character. Docs, Clubs, all of them I really enjoyed. I really like Marsh. I like Kelsier. I really like, Kelsier's motives with Mare. And there's so many characters I like. I'm like, I can't really think of anyone I don't like. Even the bad guys, I like them as the bad guys.
That's a good point. And that's a difficult thing to do as an author, I would guess. Make every character likable and make your reader enjoy reading even the bad guys. So
if you had to choose between feruchemy, hemalurgy, and allomancy, which one would you want?
Well, am I a Mistborn, or do I have to choose one power?
Let's say you get all the powers from, or I guess hemalurgy you can pick and choose, but let's just say like the highest of all. You can have whatever you want.
Okay. It does seem to me that, and I'm just going to think of 3 examples here of the most powerful of each. So in this trilogy, we've got Elend is probably the most powerful Mistborn, and then we've got, I'd say he's more powerful than Vin in this book. I mean,
In Hero of Ages or in
Yeah.
Mistborn 1?
in this book, he's more powerful than Vin.
We're talking Vin without the mists.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I don't get the
Or
mists.
does Vin ever beat Inquisitors without the mists?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I do see her on the cover here, surrounded by Inquisitors.
Well, that's her moment.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that, I mean, Elend is more powerful than her as a Mistborn because
He's more powerful, but she was still higher up.
she had longer to practice with her powers.
Or she was still the more proficient Mistborn, even though he had more raw strength.
Yeah, she was more efficient, I guess. But Elend had more raw strength because he got his powers directly from the metal.
The metal, yeah.
The metal bead. But I'm trying to think, like, obviously, if he practices for years and years, he's going to become better and better, and he's just learning his powers. But I guess, okay, you're thinking about, like there's Kelsier, Vin, and Elend, all Mistborns. Then you're thinking Marsh as a
Hemalurgy
master, and not that that's like his choice, but... And then you have Sazed as a feruchemist that you get, the most time with here. And there's things that I like about all of them, but I'm thinking that Marsh is probably the most powerful and scary of all of them. And I don't think I'd want his powers, though, because it requires spikes to be driven through my skull. So I've got to choose... There are cool things about feruchemy. I want to choose feruchemy because I like how you can store memories, and there's like really subtle powers that are unique and cool. Whereas allomancy, you get some more, classic superhero powers that you don't really that you're always reading and watching. But feruchemy has some cool, unique ones, and I think I'd want to take advantage of those. How about you?
I think I lean towards allomancy. Maybe it's because I really like the Mistborn characters. But for me, they don't have to do anything to get their... Like, they just got to get, like, the vials of metals, basically. They don't have to have spikes driven through them. And they don't have to... Like, if you want to store health, you have to make yourself sick for a little bit. Like, there's always something you got to do to yourself to kind of get the abilities with feruchemy. Where allomancy, you just got to say, I need some tin. Take it down. And all of a sudden I could see and hear and everything a lot better.
Yeah. I do like the way that in the second series of books in the next era, how Wax uses the feruchemic ability of storing his weight, and how you can always be walking around at like half weight and you're just storing weight basically. And then he can use that as an anchor point to push and makes it way more powerful. But there's things like that are pretty cool. Like that don't have like a negative downside. Like you're trading, like while you're storing weight, you're also like lighter on your feet and like able to jump higher and all that stuff. And so it's one of those examples that you're not really giving up something to gain something later.
All right. So we got feruchemy and allomancy. Okay. Then my next question is, I was pretty obvious that this is probably your number 1 of this series.
Yeah.
Where does it rank in the Cosmere altogether?
Wow. You know what? Actually, because we've already talked about this as one of the best books that we've read. I'm just trying to think about the best ones in the Cosmere, and then I'll rank it there. I'll probably put Oathbringer and Words of Radiance. This might be better than Words of Radiance for me. I'm not sure. There's just some scenes in Words of Radiance that I just love so much. I'm going to put it second or third, probably behind those two. Or I don't think this counts as a book, but I really love Emperor's Soul. And this doesn't compare to that. I'm just saying I really love that novella. But this is probably second. How about you?
Probably same as, my number 1 in the Cosmere is Rhythm of War.
Yeah.
This, for different reasons, Words of Radiance and Hero of Ages, it's like a deadlock tie for me.
Yeah.
Like they're both so superb, and I'm happy leaving them at a tie for number 2. Where if you said, like, you could only bring one on a desert island for the rest of your life, I'd say surprise me. Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually going to put it at number 3 behind Oathbringer and then Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Wow. That's a bold decision.
Dude, I loved that book because I'm trying to think of books I'd want to be stuck with. And I think that I just love that book so much that you mean that I'm a painter. But Hero of Ages is amazing and very, very great. Amazing book. So, and as far as trilogies goes, it's number one for me.
Well, my very last thing I'm going to bring up before we rank is this book just ended so beautifully for me, where you're so sad and so satisfied at the same time. The romance is perfect. The sacrifice from everyone that is involved is perfect. And how our heroes are left by the new god of harmony is amazing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, as we close out this book breakdown, we will now rank this book. And as a baseline, we see on Goodreads that it's ranked at 9.1. Pretty good. It's pretty high.
I think it's low.
You think it's low? Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it's pretty good ranking.
It is a good ranking. Like
to start off.
It's well, as you guys probably know, Goodreads does 5 stars, and this is what a 4.56.
Yeah.
So
that's
pretty dang high.
You want to give me your ranking, personal ranking?
I gave it, a 9.4.
Okay. I want to rank this book a 9.5.
I am perfectly fine moving it to a 9.5.
Okay. Amazing. You don't want to go higher, or you think it's a good one?
I think that's a good one. I have a hard time going above a 9.5. Even like my number one is that book ever is probably like a 9.6. I'm one of those people that doesn't ever believe in a perfect 10.
Yeah.
And who knows what books we're going to read in the future, but I really like a 9.5 for this one. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go.
And there's some books we haven't talked about yet that we have ranked higher than this in our Protagonist top 10.
That's true. And there are a couple books that we've admitted that we've ranked a little too low in the past, but we're just starting out here, folks. So we will re-rank those.
So Protagonist Nation, are you satisfied with the 9.5?
I'm satisfied with it because it gives us room to rank things higher. The only thing that makes me not rank it like a 9.6, 9.7 is I like the idea of Koloss a lot, but there's so many of them in this book, and there's just something about the Koloss that just doesn't sit right with, like, I still don't understand like 100%. I know it, I've read it, but their backstory is so bizarre. And like, there's such a bizarre element of fantasy.
I completely forgot about all the Koloss stuff that we learn about in this book. There's so much that happens in this. I completely forgot about the Koloss human that's following Ben around the whole book.
Yeah. So there's just something off about the Koloss that, like, I think they're genius. I think they're great. They're great in these books, but they're just so weird. And so it's the only thing that makes me like, this is really cool, but they kind of creep me out. So,
well, Protagonist Nation, there you have it. Our highest ranked book yet, Mistborn, The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, receives a Protagonist ranking of 9.5. And I'm very happy with that. I think it's very well earned.
You know, we used to argue a lot more in the beginning.
Yeah, we did. We learned to compromise. We need to find a book that we both have very different opinions about.
I don't think we need to find one. I just think it's funny how our scales are more aligning. So, well, that brings us to a segment I have been waiting for almost an hour, which is the blind rankings. And this is going to be a Hero of Ages specific edition of the blind rankings. And Mason, what I'm going to have you blind rank today is I have 5 ultimate plot twists in this trilogy, which all happen in this book, The Hero of Ages. And these are major spoilers. I haven't read a book maybe with so many plot twists since Red Rising. By the way, Hail Reaper, my brother-in-law just got this shirt for me today. I'm rocking it on the podcast. So thanks, Kyler. That was awesome. And we've got a fun one here. All ultimate plot twists. You have to rank them best to worst or best to least best. And I've got 5 of them here for you. Are you ready? Okay. First, Sazed's ascension. Sazed utilizes the knowledge of his dead religions to become harmony.
That was a really good one. Like I said, I still, in my mind, think of Vin as the Hero of Ages. Even though I know she's not, I know it Sazed. So I'm going to say that's number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Okay. The first generation, the Khandra first generation are actually Rashik's original ancient friends.
that was like so interesting, and I really liked it and thought it was really like amazing, but I didn't feel like as much of a plot twist as it was like an epic revelation. I'm going to put it at 4.
Sounds good. Conjure at 4. Okay. The earring. Vin's earring is actually a hemalurgic spike, allowing Ruin to influence her.
Man, like, that was like one of my favorite parts of the book is Marsh playing his hand when Ruin isn't paying enough attention to him, is able to break free for half a second to rip the earring out and let Vin take in the mist. Just like that whole scene is so epic and so well done. And I don't know how I don't put this at number 1, because that was like the most epic fight scene. It's going at number 1.
I think that's a good spot for it so far.
Vin's earring.
What was that?
Vin's earring. I like it.
Okay, Spook finding out where his new powers came from.
I'm going to put that at 5. We really liked Spook's story, but I felt like his was a lot less epic, a lot less, like it was important, but it wasn't like crazy important. It has more importance with the Mistborn secret history, but it doesn't have the, oh my gosh factor like some of these others.
Okay, here's the last one here. Stuck at your number 3 spot is the Atium stash. The fabled trust is actually a hidden stockpile of Atium meant to starve Ruin.
I actually really loved that part, and I love it as my number 3. I'm really happy with how my list turned out.
I think you got it pretty dead on there. Pretty dead on. I think earring, definitely awesome. I don't know how we didn't see that before. Sazed, unexpected. And then Atium stash. I really loved the Atium stash as well. That was awesome. Kandra being Rashik's friends, yes. And then Spook's powers. Okay. That was a good list there, 1 through 5. I think that you nailed it.
That was a really fun blind rankings. And that will take us into our last segment of this episode, which is the Weapon of Wisdom, fan favorite that we do every week. And this segment is sponsored by Moe's Seafood and Chowder on the Oregon coast, serving world-famous clam chowder for over 80 years. And the Weapon of Wisdom today will be given to us by Carter. So Carter, take it away.
One of our more famous protagonists. as my dad would say. Yeah, so my weapon of wisdom today is a quote from Hero of Ages, as we try to do. We try to choose a quote from the book we're reviewing in this episode. And here it is. Somehow we'll find it, the balance between whom we wish to be and whom we need to be. But for now, we simply have to be satisfied with who we are. Just to go a little into it, I think that it is important to always be striving for who we need to be and not exactly 100% satisfied with who we are, because we always want to be getting better. But it's also important to be satisfied with who you are in the moment as you try to strive, to be better and improve every day. It's not good, for your mentals, as Marshawn Lynch would say, to be, I guess, mad at yourself or not okay with who you are, how you are in the moment. I think you do have to find the balance of who you are and who you need to be. And maybe just read the quote again and don't listen to anything I just said, because it's pretty much me just regurgitating exactly what the quote is. But I am trying to find a deeper wisdom in it, and I think it's already so well said. But, a lot of it is doing the things every day that to help you be the person that you want to be, and not just putting it off for tomorrow, but actually, put a huge effort into being better. And if what you're doing now isn't working, then change it up and try something else, try to get better. And that was long-winded, but that's my weapon of wisdom.
Thank you, Carter. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our episode today. I'll just recap everything we did. We had our protagonist bookmark section where Carter and I talked about the books we are currently reading, and then moved into our protagonist book breakdown of Mistborn, The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, which did receive the highest protagonist ranking ever of 9.5. And that brought us to our blind ranking segment, which did have heavy spoilers. So be careful when you go back to listen to it if you haven't read the book yet. And Carter gave us our weapon of wisdom. And please go back and listen to his quote and his wisdom that he shared with us. And that's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe to our videos. We are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Podcast, and we have Instagram and TikTok as well. So follow us at these places if you can. We would greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, protagonist. We'll see you next week. Bro out.